In this class, we're going to explore what happened to Western Europe after the fall of the Western Roman Empire. The fact is, it never reunited. So the Roman Empire was a vast expanse, though not all of Western Europe, because the region east of the Rhine, today's Germany, and eastward, was never incorporated into the Roman Empire. But Rome did control most of Western Europe in a grand and unified empire that lasted for centuries. But for complex reasons that we have looked at, the Roman Empire, by the end of the 5th century, was falling apart in the West, and in 476, Rome itself was conquered by invading Germanic tribes. And that was the end of the Western Roman Empire. In the East, the Roman Empire would continue with capital in Constantinople until the final fall of Constantinople to the Ottoman Turks in 1453. Western Europe eventually became a region of nation-states and of warring nation-states, because the long history of Europe, both during the 4th age of globalization, the age of classical empires, and the 5th age of globalization, the age of transoceanic empires, was a region of feuding states and feuding empires. Lots of war, in fact, almost non-stop war in Western Europe for more than a millennium, essentially for most of the period from the fall of the Western Roman Empire until current times. Here in this class, we're going to explore the complex events that would give rise to the nation-states of Europe. There were various attempts and various processes of reunification, of recreating an empire, various attempts by individual conquerors to conquer large parts of Europe, but those efforts ultimately never succeeded. In this class, we'll talk about one of the most formative and important dynamics of Europe from around 800 AD until at least nominally around 1800, so for about 1,000 years. And that is the Holy Roman Empire. This is the empire established by Charlemagne, who was crowned emperor of the Holy Roman Empire in 800 AD in Rome by Pope Leo III. But about 1,000 years later, the great wit and philosopher Voltaire remarked of the Holy Roman Empire that it was neither holy nor Roman nor an empire. So this is our complication. We're going to be studying a Holy Roman Empire that isn't any of the three things that it claims to be. What the Holy Roman Empire was a political constellation of kingdoms and dukedoms and other polities in Central Europe, centered around the German-speaking lands, that lasted for around 1,000 years, with a very complex history, but a history right at the center of the history of culture, Christendom, the arts, the architecture, the belief systems of Western Europe for 1,000 years. So Charlemagne was crowned in 800 as a new emperor because of the classic Roman Empire. He wanted to be a new Roman emperor, even though he was king of the Franks and of German-speaking peoples. So he became an emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, holy meaning Christian, Roman to assert the grandeur of the classic age, and empire was the aspiration to rule over large parts of Europe. Soon after he was crowned, the lands began to divide. There was the birth of what would become France, separated from the German lands. And the German lands, by and large, remained within what would be the Holy Roman Empire for centuries to come. This was not one political structure. This was a series of principalities with several different rulers, monarchs that shared power and that elected, in fact, the emperor that would carry the overall title of Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. And the holder of that empire moved among the leading power families of Europe until finally settling in the Habsburg family, which maintained the role of emperor of the Holy Roman Empire until the end of the Holy Roman Empire in the first years of the 19th century, that is, in the early 1800s. What are our goals in this class? Well, they are to understand the political dynamics of early modern Europe, of medieval Europe, and then as Europe as it emerges in the fifth age of globalization with the transoceanic empires that arise after the voyages of Columbus and Vasco da Gama. We want to understand the fragmentation of Europe, the constant warfare between competing monarchies or competing political realms within Europe. And we want to contrast that fragmentation and frequent warfare in Western Europe with the relative unity and internal peace that would characterize China throughout most of its history. China remained united under one emperor, even as one dynasty passed to the next dynasty, the Song and the Tang, the Yuan and the Ming and the Qing dynasties, but with an emperor that ruled over a unified administrative and political state that looks like today's China. And by contrast, in the region that we're considering in our class today, Western Europe, it's warfare nearly nonstop and competition among the would-be empires, none of them ultimately succeeding in reunifying Europe. What are our goals in this class? Our goals are to understand the political history of Europe during this late classical age, after the fall of the Western Roman Empire, and before the beginning of the fifth age of globalization of transoceanic empires. So our goals are to understand roughly the 1,000 years from around 500 AD to 1500 AD. We're looking specifically at the Holy Roman Empire, which can be dated to the crowning of Charlemagne as emperor in the year 800 AD, and then to the ensuing competition between different regions of Europe for political control and the attempts at domination. We have the crowning of Charlemagne. We have the emergence of what would become France as Charlemagne's empire divides between West and East. We have the period of medieval Christendom, where the popes and the emperors battle for influence, for power, who gets to appoint which officials, and this is a battle that would rage for hundreds of years. We have the history of the Holy Roman Empire itself and the different houses that ruled or were elected as the imperial center, including the period where Prague becomes the capital of the Holy Roman Empire with the House of Luxembourg, and then later as Vienna becomes the long-standing capital of the Holy Roman Empire during the period in which the Habsburgs are the emperors of the Holy Roman Empire. In fact, the Habsburgs become so dominant that it is the Habsburgs that become the first truly global emperors when the voyages of discovery lead to the transoceanic empires of Spain and Portugal after the opening years of the 16th century. So the Habsburgs become a dominant part of the story. Never quiet in Europe, competition among the different political realms, and as we will explore in detail, lots of turmoil according to religious faith and lots of competition between political authorities and the popes and within Christendom itself. So we have lots to explore, and we're going to be visiting some absolutely remarkable sites together. To understand the Holy Roman Empire, we're going to start in Prague, that magical city of 1,000 spires, and we'll go to Prague Castle, which is the castle of Charles IV, from the House of Luxembourg and Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire in the 14th century. We will visit Vienna, of course, home of the Habsburgs, the capital of the Habsburgs for hundreds of years, the great ruling family of Europe, perhaps the greatest single ruling family in history. And we will visit Madrid, one of the capitals of the Habsburg realms, the Spanish Habsburgs, and we will see the Palacio Real, the royal palace of Madrid in the Spanish Habsburg realms, which was the palace that governed the Spanish territories now spread throughout the world, throughout the New World of the Americas, throughout Asia and Africa, as this first transoceanic empire takes hold in the fifth age of globalization. So a lot to see. Let's go.